What is going on, Amazon sellers? Welcome back to the weekly live news and Q&A show for you guys, Amazon sellers. I'm Chris Grant with my irrefragable co-host, Chris Rasick. And today, we're going to chat a few pieces of news that should interest you and take your questions on anything related to Amazon, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, or wholesale. But before we dive in, I'd like to share with you the sponsor this week. It is the Wholesale Challenge. Now, we've had a few sellers on the podcast, especially recently, that have discussed the positives of not giving up online arbitrage, not giving up retail arbitrage, but adding wholesale to their arbitrage business. And these sellers have said that they would never give up arbitrage. The problem is a lot of people don't know where to start when it comes to wholesale. And so we think we've solved that problem with the live 7-day wholesale challenge to help you learn prospecting, positioning, pitching, and more at what we deem is an affordable price. And the next one starts on July 22nd. So if you want to learn a little bit more, head over to wholesalechallenge.com. You can learn what it's all about. And you can sign up for the wait list. It is not open quite yet. But now let's dive in. Chris, how's your week been going, man?
Week's going good. Got finally back at the home base. Although while we're waiting for people to show up a little bit, I do want to talk to you about the fact I think I've lost the ability to talk to non-sellers now.
I get that. It is difficult.
Yeah. So I was sourcing this morning and I found this the sports store that's going out of business, right? And it's final days. It's one of those up to 75% off, like the whole store. You know, they're running their liquidation sale online, and it was it's a specialty sport, I guess. But there was someone that I went to high school with who I'm Facebook friends with, and who mentions this sport a lot. You know, so I'm like, oh, I want, and this is, I mean, there's stuff like $60 selling for $18, you know, like that kind of liquidation stuff.
Yeah.
So I grabbed some stuff, you know, to send in myself, but I figured I'd make sure this was on this guy's radar. And he's not somebody that I talk to a lot, you know, if at all, you know. So I sent him a DM on Facebook and I said, hey, just want to let you know, I know you're into this, you know, this might be a cool way to get some fancy upgrades or whatever. But I told him, I said, I bought this, you know, this thing, it's still selling for 60 on Amazon. They've got it for 18 right now. And so I apologize for it being random. So he sent a message back and he goes, hey, yeah, what part? And, you know, like what piece of equipment did you buy? And I was like, well, it's not really. I said, well, it's you know. So I sent him this one, and I said, but I like the whole store's on sale. You know, like I just figured you could stock up on some, you know, typically expensive stuff. And it just like, and then he didn't respond, and I was like, man, you told yourself you weren't going to make it weird, and you made it weird. And, you know, instead of just saying, like, I guess I should have just said like, hey, by the way, X store is going out of business. You know. I just want to make sure you knew. I stumbled upon it, and that would have been the end of it. But no, I had to go into, you know, examples of you know, ROI and all this crazy stuff. So I don't know. I don't know how to talk to non-sellers anymore.
I get it. The conversations I have with some non-sellers nowadays are, while I enjoy them, I don't know, they seem forced, or, you know, I'm kind of like, hey, when can we talk margins, man? Because I really want to get to that part of the conversation, and they're just like,
right.
I just want to tell you about my week. Like, okay, all right, fine. There are some interesting pieces of news this week, in my opinion. And Widya, it's good to see that we've got another Floridian. Hopefully I didn't screw up your name this time, because I fear that every time I see your name and you compliment that I pronounced your name right once, that I'm then going to say it wrong. So I apologize if I did, but that's awesome. we've had a seller meetup in Orlando in the past. We'll do another one hopefully soon, and I'll make sure everybody in Florida knows about it this time around. But so Marketplace Pulse, it's one of my favorite reads. Came out with a short little piece about the size of marketplaces. Now, people don't. Never mind. That was going to be a bad joke. Never mind. But Amazon, Walmart, and TikTok Shop are the three top marketplaces for U.S. brands at the moment. However, if Temu and TikTok achieve their goals this year, they may overtake Walmart in the marketplace ranking. Amazon, of course, is the largest marketplace in the U.S., and they sell 3 times more than the rest of the marketplaces combined. And they compared 5 different marketplaces. So according to eMarketer and Marketplace Pulse projections, Amazon Marketplace, just in the U.S. only, not outside the U.S., will achieve $325 billion in sales this year. That, of course, does not include Amazon as a retailer. If you were to include first-party sales, Amazon is likely going to be the biggest online and offline retailer in the U.S. this year. There were many that thought it was going to take a few more years for them to surpass Walmart, but it seems like it's going to happen in 2024. Now, the place that everyone is excited about, because it is still the Wild West, because it is the new shiny object, Walmart. Walmart is going to hit $10 billion in marketplace sales in 2024, according to estimates. Which, I mean, that is a sizable chunk. So I don't want to poo-poo what Walmart is doing over there. But Walmart should make north of $100 billion in e-commerce sales in the U.S. this year. Most of that coming from their own retail sales, which are often fulfilled directly from the stores. Now, compared to Amazon, where the marketplace represents more than 60% of total gross merchandise value, Walmart's is perhaps 10%. But Walmart Marketplace, just like Amazon has done and is still doing, the Walmart Marketplace is growing faster than first-party sales on each platform. So I hope they get that number up. I don't want to make fun of Walmart's size, but I know that I'm not as bullish on it as a lot of other people are. I think it's another outlet that is good to have, but I'm not. I don't know. I'm not sure if are we 10 years away of Walmart shedding its, we're the cheap place to shop, or if they ever get rid of that, I don't know, that reputation, and whether or not they grow to, 100 or 200 billion in marketplace sales. I don't know. But as of right now, they are going to end the year at about a third of what eBay's marketplace sales are. But of course, eBay is that's a different market. That's the enthusiast, that's the collector. That's where you go and sell grandma's tchotchkes, that kind of stuff. Walmart and Walmart and Amazon, of course, are not for that.
Yeah, another interesting factor in all this is who and what you're listening to. As an Amazon seller, maybe you're kicking around Walmart, maybe you started on Walmart already. I know there are certain people that are doing very well on Walmart. But it's interesting to listen to, it's interesting to see these numbers, right? Because there's a whole lot of, the chart on Walmart Talk, as far as a place to sell as a third party, is hitting borderline fever pitch, I feel like, or at least that's what I'm tuned into. And I think it's interesting. I wonder what the comparison would be as far as the opportunity to be a seller on Walmart versus the opportunity to be a guru teaching how to sell on Walmart. You know, because I think there's so many. Well, it feels like there are a lot of people positioning themselves as coaches, which I think is natural as Amazon continues to grow and the third party marketplace especially continues to grow. Obviously, there's more opportunities for teachers and educators and you know, because there's more people wanting to learn. So that's easy supply and demand. But I think, you know, it's because I saw somebody posting something today about how we're maybe already at the end of the time that you should have gotten into Walmart. You know, that it's going to start tightening up. Yeah, again, I don't know. I'm not. You know, I have no dog in this fight. So, but you know, but usually there is a theory that like once you've heard about it, it's already too late. You know, like there's certain people that tend to find these things earlier on the growth curve than other people. You know, so, but I wonder how much is coaches and the guru types trying to position themselves on that early part of that curve, you know, and how close to neck and neck they are in the race.
That's a good question. It is, you know, I mean, blue oceans always create these kind of things. So I mean, I totally get it. I don't know. Like I said, I'm a big fan of having more places to sell. And I happen to see someone say just it was either yesterday or today, but they're like, oh, you know, well, you know, finding that next big thing, like they found Walmart or they found Amazon, you know, maybe 10 or 12 years ago. And they're like, I made a lot of money on Amazon, you know, but now there's Walmart and you're going to have the opportunity to make a lot of money on Walmart. And I appreciate that. I do agree. I think early adopters are rewarded for being early adopters. But then I don't think that just because selling on Amazon has changed and you have to be a better operator, I don't find that people should turn their cold shoulder on what's paying the bills. You know, pull a Joey Wheeler, for example. He got suspended. He said, hey, I got suspended on Amazon. I'm going to open up a Walmart account. He's growing his Walmart account, but he's not turning his back on Amazon. And it seems like some people are like, oh, you got to go after this next shiny object. And while I think that you should pay attention to what they're doing, I guess I'm personally I'm not to the point where this is the thing. Like I still see too many people. I saw one guy today. He was like, I started back in January on Amazon, and I did $10,000 in a month, and it's now July, and he had a $10,000 day. Can you do that on Walmart? Yeah, there is enough volume for that, you know. But is there enough volume for $100,000 a day? Maybe for one or two people, but I don't think there's, you know, 50 or 100 people doing $100,000 in a day, and there's more than that on Amazon. So I hope not many people are putting a ton of eggs in that basket quite yet.
Yeah, I mean the key is it's not a zero sum game. You know, like Walmart growth and Walmart profits for sellers don't come at the cost of Amazon. You know, and you have to always remember that the negatives are going to stick out in your head far more than the positives. You know, that's part of the reason why it's so important. These interviews that we've been doing with these huge sellers on Amazon, you know, just this multi-million-dollar sellers. You know, that doesn't come at our expense. You know, it's as long as the numbers, and probably even a little bit after, but the numbers are showing that Amazon is still growing. You know, e-commerce as a whole is growing. You know, so it's not all of the pieces aren't in play, and for one avenue to grow, the other has to lose. You know, we're not at that point.
Exactly. Yeah, we're definitely not in the newspaper industry. You know, we've still got some runway, fortunately. Now, in that last piece, we talked a little bit about Temu. I can't stand the name, but speaking of them and their plans, Amazon seems to have put a target on their back and has a plan to. I would imagine if they're talking in a boardroom, they're talking about crushing them, stomping on them, all this kind of stuff. But they're putting it into play right now, and they're going to be adding an area on Amazon where people can buy items that are sub $20 directly on Amazon in the Amazon ecosphere. And the items will be shipped directly to the customer from China in 9 to 20 days. Which is, I mean, essentially they're stealing Temu's playbook, but using their marketplace size to keep buyers on the Amazon site. And I would imagine they're going to protect them with things like A to Z claims and, ease of getting refunds and things like that. Now, my very first thought, my knee-jerk reaction was one word. It was gross. I was like that's kind of nasty. But a post from one of our recent podcast guests, Jassam, it made me sit with this for a moment and kind of rethink my position. And my position is now that this is actually probably really genius on Amazon's part. This may not be a win for private label sellers who are not building a brand. Private label sellers who are white labeling, they're selling cheap products, probably not going to be good for them. However, I think for those of us who are practicing the art and science of arbitrage, whether that is wholesale, online arbitrage, retail arbitrage, I think it's going to be a win. And here's the genius in my opinion. You keep the customer on the platform who would go to Shein or would go to Temu. You allow them to get the cheap tchotchke that they want. At the same time, allow them to get access in the same cart, in the same scroll to the Neutrogena, the Lego, the Pillsbury, the Heinz, all the other things that they're used to buying, the things that we sell as arbitragers. The only thing I'm not sure of is what are the second order effects? Does the speed at which those customers get the items from US based sellers using FBA or even merchant fulfilling get that customer to go back and look for the $15 refrigerator organizer from a US based seller? Or are they going to be okay with waiting 9 to 20 days to save $5 on said refrigerator organizer that they saw on a TikTok video, and then get all the other things from Amazon sellers? But I don't know. I think that either way, this is going to end up being a win for Amazon sellers. And I'm curious about your opinion.
Yeah, I think anytime you can get the customer to spend more time on your platform, that's extremely valuable. That's across multiple industries. That's how social media works. They'll actually de-emphasize social media posts with links that take you off of their site. That's
exactly
multiple companies have done that, including all the major social media. So obviously the data backs it up that the longer you can keep the eyeballs on your marketplace, the better off you'll be. As far as, execution of it, Amazon's certainly not afraid to float a banner on top and banners below the buy box, pointing you to alternatives that may be able to be delivered faster. If they draw a connection between competing products or things that are out of stock frequently, they make it very easy to find in stock alternatives that can get to you faster. So, this is a positive overall. It kind of the unfortunate part for me is that it apparently legitimizes the Temu business model. I was kind of hoping that would go away, but overall positive.
Unfortunately, I think that business model has been legitimized for a while. It's just who operates better. Temu's, they don't use a marketplace model. They do have manufacturers that sell on the platform, but it seems like they hold on to the product and ship it themselves rather than letting it ship directly from factories. but like Wish was massive for a while. Uh, and I don't know what they did to ruin it, but I know their market cap went to like almost, it was like $11 million in market cap from what was a $2 or $3 billion company. Um, eh, we've got a couple things. So 9 to 20 days seems like a hard sell, and today's got to have it now mindset. I agree, especially for me. I'm not going to be I'm not going to be buying. Definitely won't be sourcing. I'm not going to be buying from those sellers most likely. But with $60 billion in projected sales in the U.S. marketplace this year, it seems like there's a place for it. Is there a concern for oversaturation? So that's why one of the things that I mentioned is it's not going to be the brands that are going to pay the price, in my opinion. I mean, let's talk. Nobody's going to be buying food from these sellers, but let's just take the most trusted brand in the United States in 2023 was the Band-Aid brand. All right. You get a scrape on your knee, you're going for a Band-Aid. You're not going for whatever they would call that from a Chinese seller. I could definitely buy bandages. Sorry, because they're not Band-Aids. Band-Aids is a brand name, but I could buy bandages from a Chinese seller and wait 9 to 20 days to get them shipped to me via USPS or whatever that loophole is that they use. But I'm not going to. I'm going to search Band-Aid, and I'm going to end up buying that particular product, where that's the kind of thing that we sell. It will hit the private label sellers. All right.
Yeah, exactly. I think what this is good for, and who it may hurt, are the places like the Five Belows and stuff like that. Because I mean, at least in my house, that's the kind of stuff that shows up with the foreign writing and in the bubble mailers that my wife and my daughters seem to get all the time. Just little corner shelves and little message boards and just little like random room decorations. But it's the type of stuff that you can order it and forget about it. It's not like my daughter's Taylor Swift CD that she's checking every day and asking for order updates and then
exactly
the CD that she got and realized we don't have anything to play it on. We don't have any CD players anymore. She was, it was like,
it's 2024. Who's got a CD player?
Yeah. I was like, she goes, how do I play this? I was like, kind of looking around like, oh, good question, honey. And then what that caused was us to go to Five Below and go get a cheap little Discman player so she could actually listen to it. So circle of life, I guess.
Right. And GSD, you bring up a good point. One-off shipping, it cannot stay cheap forever. Why that loophole has not been closed with the United States Postal Service bleeding gobs of money. The U.S., if I'm not mistaken, the U.S. Postal Service loses more money than Walmart sells via their marketplace every single year. If I'm not mistaken, something like $17 billion a year that they are in the red. But when does that loophole get closed? And someone might have to Google me on that, because I can't say that number is accurate or not. But when does that loophole get closed? I don't know. I don't know how long that loophole stays open. We've got an election season coming up, so maybe things change depending on the way the election goes. Who knows? Now remember, guys, we're here to answer your guys' questions. We've got a few more things that we can talk about, but we want to answer questions that you guys have. So make sure to drop anything you've got in the chat, and we'll be more than happy to go over that kind of stuff for you guys as well. One other thing before we dive into some ASIN reviews, that was very popular last week when we started it, so we're going to do it again. But ASIN reviews, we've got an OA challenge sourcing contest coming up. It starts on Friday. Today's Wednesday. We've got a contest coming up that starts on Friday. First place is $1,000. If you're interested in throwing your hat into the ring, You can go to ohchallenge.com/contest and learn everything about it that we're putting on. There's going to be $500 for second place, $250 for third place, and of course, we're going to do some giveaways and things like that during the lives, and we'll make sure that we make it well worth your time and effort. And if nothing else, you can sign up to watch and learn a few things that other people are dropping. It's going to be a ton of fun. We've done these in the past, and they've always been a bit eye-opening, especially the way people find their products. We ask them to share with us how products were found as well, and it's always fun to see how people are thinking and using different sourcing methods. So,
yeah, one of the winners from one of your previous contests had a method that I still use today on a regular basis.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. All right. So yeah, again, and guys, if you have questions, drop them in the chat. We'll get to those as well. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to talk. We'll talk a couple of ASIN reviews. Let me pop this over here, and I'm going to swing over to another page here. Should be able to see a patio door silver security bolt, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. So we've got this item for $21.95 at Home Depot. Now, a lot of people would probably overlook this particular item just because it is a really boring product. It's, it just is. But this kind of stuff is great. We can get, I believe, an 8% discounted gift card on Home Depot. So let's call it, I think it's 6%. We can get a 6% discounted gift card for Home Depot in $500 increments. And we can get 4% cash back. Now, I did not look, I don't have a Home Depot credit card. I have a Lowe's credit card. And I know that I can choose at Lowe's with my credit card to either get 5% off or to get like 12 or 36 months financing, depending on 0% financing, depending on how much I spend. So that kind of thing may also be available if you have a Home Depot credit card. But essentially, you're looking at about $20.85 or $20.95 with a discounted gift card on this product. And if we swing over here, it is currently at 32. Earlier today, this was at 41. At 40 or 32, this is definitely not nearly as attractive. We can see this drop down almost immediately. But I brought this one up specifically for a couple of reasons. Number one, if we go out over the past year, we can see that this item is been fairly flat and sells fairly well with just 2 offers. And then we see the number of sellers rise on it precipitously compared to the past year. It goes up to about 15 or 16 sellers. And of course, we see that price drop right in line with it. And then we see the number of sellers start falling off as they sell through. And then we see the price come back up just a touch, back to 41 is what it was earlier. And we've got some knucklehead today who decided to drop it almost $10, which is frustrating. But the reason I brought this one up is I wanted to talk a little bit about catching a falling knife. And if you are talking about trading terms, you'll hear people tell you, well, don't catch a falling knife. But in the Amazon space, I think that there is room at times to play the game where you do try to catch the falling knife. And I want to give you an example here. If we go to the data section and we look at the offers, I'm going to zoom in here just a touch. We're going to see this seller right here, this NW Deals, okay? And also Midwest eStore. Now, I don't really like the rating on NW Deals, but they've been around for a while and they sell, some quantity, and Midwest eStore does as well. But if we look here, both of these sellers have done the same thing. They had the price up at 43 when they could, and then they both hit a bottom. This seller was 34. This seller down here was 33. And then they stopped going any lower and they waited out the price. Okay. They let other sellers go down to 25, 26, and then they'll pick up selling again once that price recovers to somewhere where they're happy with the margin. So they are chasing the price down. We can especially see that with this seller. They're oscillating their price between 59 and 34 and going back and forth. So they're willing to catch that sale on a downward price movement, but not below where they might be profitable. Okay. And you can do the same thing. You don't have to follow the herd. Okay. If Charlie Munger, talks about if you mimic the herd, you invite regression to the mean, which means you get average results. So you don't have to do that. Okay. You can stick to your plan rather than, throwing money, down the toilet by chasing people down into the $24 range and hoping. Now you have to hope that the price is going to recover, which in many cases it does. All right. Sometimes you have to take a loss, but there should be rules in place for that, rather than, going by just gut or going by emotion. We can have rules in place for when it is time to liquidate. Chris, what do you have to add, man?
Not much. I like this way. This is what happens. And
Mm-hmm.
Moving forward, the knucklehead. I don't think if you're listening, expert J-Lo with 9-hole reviews, you're doing it wrong.
Right.
But I think if we could fast forward, another 30 days or something like that, you're not going to see a whole lot of that spike in sellers replenning this. It's probably going to go back to what we see in late 2023. So, this is. I don't believe that you actually can, but this is probably as close to sourcing a replen as you get. So
yeah, and I would imagine that this little blip in price, this $32 seller right now, my guess is they either don't have a ton of stock because that is. Let's see here. I'll pull it back up here. Yeah, that is FBA. That third-party seller at 32 is FBA. So my guess is they probably don't have a ton of stock, and they'll end up selling out. And that low price right now is going to scare anybody who might have replenished this, because to me this looks like it hopped on a lead list or something, or somewhere found it and shared it with a group of people, and it went up in the number of sellers. I'm guessing that those sellers either are never going to come back and look at this after they sold for a loss, or the ones who do are being scared off right now just because of this little blip in price where it dropped back down to 32. But
that is suspiciously close to, it's about 90 to 120 days from when that pinch started. So I could see that kind of maybe being a fulfillment center finding an extra unit and going live for the seller, and they still have pinch repricer settings in place.
Absolutely. Could be.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I think a lot of people are probably maybe pricing these based on 25 drops per month, but Amazon themselves say that this sells more than at least 50 per month, 50 or more per month. Where was that? I saw it earlier today. Maybe it dropped off of there. Oh no, bought in the past month, 50 plus. And so maybe people are trying to reprice this, based on it selling slower than what it actually does. But I don't know. I don't know all the psychology behind some sellers. Now, this next one, I almost didn't share this one because this is a really great lead, but this is right now a buy one get two free on Funko Pops at Hot Topic. There's not going to be any coupon code you can use on top of that, but you could use a gift card at 6% off on Hot Topic. You can also get another 2% cash back. on this kind of thing. Maybe get some cash back on your credit card as well for buying the discount gift cards. But that makes this item $19.90 once you source this. It is right now at $52.73, but we should dive into the which makes it for about $17 in profit. This one is solid, almost a 90% ROI. It's a 33% profit margin on this. And there are a couple of things to think about on this one, though. Okay. Number one, I don't think that Hot Topic is a main street store, but there are enough people who understand that sales happen. And so this sale will likely be sourced pretty heavily. All right. Over the past 3 months, we have seen the number of sellers go up. But in my opinion, based on the review count, you're probably seeing enough sales velocity that the price hasn't been absolutely pummeled like I would expect. So this is probably selling at a fairly good clip. I'm not going to do the public math, but I have suggestions on how to figure out about what the sales velocity is when Amazon's not reporting it via sales rank or via their estimated monthly sales themselves. But over the past 3 months, it's gone from, let me go back here. It's gone from 5 reviews to 20 reviews, which is pretty solid. We see the number of sellers is moving up and down. So definitely another sign of sales velocity. But here's the thing. This would be something that I would source right now because there is still a lot of room on this. However, I would not be expecting $17 in profit on this particular item. I would be expecting somewhere closer to maybe a 30 or 40% ROI, knowing what's going to happen for a couple of reasons. Number one, the number of sellers on this item is going to go up because of this sale. It just happens, and it's too good of a sale for people to pass up on. Buying one, getting 2 free is insane. So there are a couple of things you need to do. Number one, you need to try and reduce your cost of goods farther than anyone else can. That discount gift card is one good way. 8% on top of the current discount is pretty solid, in my opinion. Stack that with a credit card and get you another 2% cash back. Maybe that fills in a little bit more. I don't think there's going to be any coupon codes you're going to be able to use to get that price down any further, though. But then the other thing is this is the kind of item where I expect the price to drop in the next couple of weeks. Matter of fact, I'm gonna set a tracking alert on this, and I expect this to go down 30 to 40% over the next 30 days or so. Maybe there's a little bit of a flat line in the price erosion due to the upcoming Prime Day and people adding things like this to their cart when they're looking for deals on other items. But eventually, the supply is going to outstrip the demand further than it already has. But this is still something that I would probably buy right now and just know that I'm going to get less money than what it is currently being sourced at. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, you also have some built-in insulation because there is no sales rank. There's a whole lot of sellers
Correct.
that are just simply going to pass because they don't have that data. So, and it's the type of thing where you need to not fall in love with what the data was when you sourced it. I've been really focusing on just setting my min where I've decided I want it set, and then just letting it go. Just get it so it turns over and you get the capital back. It's just so many times, so many afternoons, I've kind of just beaten my head over like the last ASIN that we looked at, that knucklehead. If that if that person dropping it $10 would have dragged a whole bunch of other people down, and then that price is now depressed for 30, 60 days because of it, I'd waste too much time just gnashing my teeth, over it. Like, oh, what are you doing, you idiot? And making my kids worry about the language that they're hearing out of daddy's office, and and it just doesn't serve any purpose. It's just, just detach all emotion from your inventory, and it is what it is. I mean, the nice thing is that ASIN that we just looked at, you're going to get positive ROI, and you're probably not, it's probably not going to hit the point where, my guess, I don't think it's going to hit the point where you have to lower your minimum ROI from probably what you're looking for when you evaluate it under a worst case scenario, assuming you don't have some ridiculous like okay, 50% ROI minimum. I'm not going under that. I mean, that's ridiculous. But if you're 20%, I don't think, my guess is you're probably not going to sell it for less than 20% ROI. Even even letting the chips fall over the next several weeks.
I would agree with that. All right, we've got some questions. We're going to get through these because unfortunately I've got a hard stop tonight. But so I might answer this one for you, Chris. But Margie asked, Chris, what sourcing method from a previous winner are you still using? I'm going to guess that Chris probably doesn't want to just share that with all the people who are going to see this video. Because we get about 600 to 700 views on these. However, all of the previous sourcing contests are out there on YouTube somewhere. So if you find those, you should be able to, and watch them, you should be able to figure out which one he may mean.
Yeah, and Margie, it wasn't anything extremely high level. It was just a very specific way of setting corridors, focusing mainly on price. So it let me kind of dial in selling prices that I like. So I kind of, it's a revolving method that I use on a regular basis. So if that helps.
So GSD is curious, have either of you taken the plunge and figured out how the ungate permissions work on transparency code products? So if I'm not mistaken, if there's a transparency enabled product, the only thing that you need to do is you need to send in 5 images of the transparency codes on the products. And that's all, if I'm not mistaken, unless something has changed. But I don't know is that still the case? Or has something changed that you know of, Chris?
I don't know very much about it. Isn't the challenge, how do you, my question is, how do you verify that the products that you're ordering have the actual transparency codes, or moving forward, if it's something that you're going to continually replenish?
So the way that Amazon reads is if you use the transparency program, those transparency labels are supposed to be affixed to all of your products across your entire supply chain. So if you're selling at Target and Walmart and Amazon, those transparency codes should be on everything. Now, whether or not that actually happens is the thing. There are these curlers. I cannot remember the name of them, but they're a soft curler. They come in a little plastic bag. And I know that they do it the right way. The ones that are sold on Amazon, as well as the ones sold in store at Target, have transparency labels on them. However, I've come across supplement brands where the brand sells on Amazon has the transparency label on them, but on other marketplaces, they do not affix the transparency label, or the transparency labels have not gotten into that supply chain yet. So there's no guarantee if you're doing OA that you're going to get transparency labeled product. So it's a bit of a gamble.
And that example, it's the brand itself. Yes, transparency labels to Amazon, but they're sending products without them to other marketplaces. It's the same brand.
Yes, that is what it seems like.
Okay.
I don't know whether they're just skirting the rules or whether when I ordered it was items that you just had were old and had not gotten transparency labels on them. I can't say for sure. Um, so, Gene. So for this one ASIN I've sold, I noticed that the fees reported were off and more expensive on Seller Amp than on Seller Board and Seller Central. Is there a more accurate calculator out there? So here's the thing. All of the calculators, whether it's Rev Seller or Seller Amp or any of the other ones that I'm aware of, most of those use the Amazon Seller Central API or your MWS keys or whatever they call it these days. So those fees typically come directly from Amazon. Now, I've had this conversation a lot in the past, especially with tactical arbitrage users who say, well, the fees are off. My opinion is that 9 times out of 10, that's actually not the calculator. It's not the software. It's Amazon's fault. However, we tend to have a bit of recency bias, and when we see something wrong in something that relies on information from another area, we blame whatever wrapper it's coming in. Whether that's, you put bad information into ChatGPT and you get bad information out. Well, that's ChatGPT's fault. It's not my fault for putting in the bad information. In the case of Seller Amp or Rev Seller, it's their fault rather than Amazon's fault for actually spitting back the wrong fees, which they do on occasion. Their API makes mistakes. Their whole system is just duct taped together on the back end, and they're hoping they don't have any incidents, which happen quite frequently. But I would also suggest that you use calculators, kind of like a grenade. It just needs to be close enough. It doesn't need to hit the bullseye.
And depending on, I know I've run into this because I had Rev Seller right from the jump, right? It was the first calculator that I used. Ended up adding Seller Amp years later. And what I found was if the fees aren't matching up in real time, like if you take, and I'm not sure how Seller Board works, but I assume there's some sort of back end where you have your preferred settings, right? What I found with Rev Seller and Seller Amp not matching up was that I had set my settings so long ago on Rev Seller that I forgot what my criteria was, and over time, over the years, my preferences had changed. So when I set up Seller Amp several years later, I wasn't using that ridiculous rookie ROI minimum or whatever it was. So I actually had to go on the back end and match those up. And that actually made them far more accurate when I used them. It was kind of user error.
Yeah. GSD, any guess on the effect of allowing used to start selling in January? Did that make new go down? I'm not 100% sure I understand the question. Maybe you could re-ask that one for me. What are your favorite products to source? Chris, I'm gonna let you go first on this one.
I don't know, whichever ones move the fastest at the highest profit. This is a question that answers itself as your experience and your skill grows. It's, and Easton, I apologize if you've been in the game for a long time. Maybe you're just asking out of curiosity, but yeah, I concern myself with that question less and less the longer I stay in this. I really don't care what I sell. There's very, very little that I'm like, in fact, I even put out lead lists, and I have to fight that personal bias, because I'll see something like, I don't want to sell a hoodie. Those are so annoying to prep and what. Well, guess what? That's my personal preference isn't the baseline for the Amazon sell. My preferences don't, have the finger on the pulse of, the collective Amazon sellers as a whole. So you got to kind of drop those biases and just look at everything. And you know what? There was a clothing item that I kind of rolled my eyes at first, and I looked at the numbers and I ended up buying it. The numbers were really good.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, you're better off without a preference, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't really care for shoes and clothing just because of return rates. But other than that, I don't care. I don't care whether it's a door lock, a Funko Pop, and that's kind of one of the reasons that the examples today were so different. Is to kind of be able to show you that it's not just one category, it's not just one type of product. Like if it sells, sell it. That's profit is profit. Easton, would you do FBM? Yeah, absolutely. I'm not against it for the right things and for the right person. We are doing some FBM at the moment. I absolutely hate it. It's not just because I have so many other irons in the fire that I don't care for it. But if I were just getting started on Amazon, if I were young, if I didn't have a ton of other responsibilities, like you have kids, and you need to keep like all these cool things in your office to ship out, and they're going to come picking around, and they, they five-finger discount one that you then sell, you've got a serious problem. But if I had the ability to do nothing but focus on Amazon 24/7 for, the rest of the year, I would probably merchant fulfill a fair amount of things because of the speed at which you can turn over your capital. It's unprecedented. Luke, was that knucklehead someone who just came on the listing and let their buy box chasing repricer tank the price because their delivery date is 3 weeks out? It's possible if they have a repricer that is that, if it can do that, I don't know. I used to think I understood the psychology of Amazon sellers, and a lot of people, oh, well, they're just dumb, or, they don't know what they're doing. But I don't think that way anymore. Maybe those people have a brand direct deal and they can get it so much cheaper than everyone else that they're willing to forego some profit per unit, okay, to make it up in increased velocity. I can't say for sure. There's just too many variables. Margie, would you buy an item and hold it until Q4?
This one, she typed this when we were looking at that Funko Pop, by the way.
Okay, so my opinion is it depends, and I've got a couple of reasons for this. My knee-jerk reaction is no, and the reason for that is because of opportunity cost. And if you're not sure what opportunity cost is, you should go look that up. It's a very important thing. I've got all this kind of top of mind because I'm reading the new version of the Poor Charlie's Almanac. So this is all, of course, it's one of Charlie Munger's like top things to consider in making an investment is opportunity cost. Could that money that let's say you invest $100 into that Funko Pop, and you have to hold that for the next 6 months to make, let's say, a 50% ROI. Well, if you took that same $100 and you were to flip it every 30 days between now and January 1st, so what is it, 6 times? You were to be able to flip that 6 times at a 10% ROI, which one comes out better? Well, flipping it 6 times at 10% ROI actually comes out better. $100 at 50% ROI is $150. $100 flipped 6 times at 10% ROI ends up being $160 without any compounding. That's just simple interest, not compounding that over and over again. So your opportunity cost of that money was $10. And while we're using some small numbers here, and I'm doing some probably very poor public math, you still make out better by not holding on to that particular product. And that's just by understanding opportunity cost. Now, if you have an embarrassment of riches when it comes to capital, and that money, you're not going to deploy in any other way, and it's going to sit and get, 0.05% in a checking account or a savings account, then yes, maybe you invest that into something that you could hold until Q4. That's my thought anyway. Lori, how do you stay competitive if other sellers don't keep to MAP? Not all vendors are enforcing MAP, but I can't break MAP for fear of getting a MAP violation from the brand. Some of my inventory is at FBA and I'm not getting the buy box, so goods are just sitting. That is probably a discussion you need to have with the brand. Because there is, and we're seeing this kind of thing. This is the reason why Clinique and Smashbox and et cetera, is going directly to Amazon. It's because they could not properly enforce MAP, and they did not like what they deemed to be the reputational risk and erosion of their brand. Was it good for the consumer? No. Was it good for the Amazon seller? Absolutely not. So this is something that needs to become the light to the brand. It also offers you an opportunity to educate a brand on a problem they're having on Amazon and potentially be able to help them police that, kick off the bad actors, kick off the bad sellers, and potentially get yourself an exclusive deal because you will do what's right for the brand. And this is a simple one, just policing for MAP pricing. It's very, very simple to do. You can do it with a Keepa alert. But outside of that, you could go to the brand and say, hey, you know what? We're going to make sure that you don't see any reputational erosion from price erosion. And on top of that, if you will give us an exclusive, we will police MAP for you. We can help you get this product gated. We can help you do PPC to get a larger market share of this particular product. I would take this bad apple and I would try to turn it into something that's going to be profitable for you long into the future.
Yeah, I thought it was funny. Somebody posted, I think it's that anti-guru, smart aleck guy on Twitter. He posted something about kind of like a follow-up on Estee Lauder locking down their brands and whatnot. And one of the points he made was, look how much more the customer has to pay now. And it's like, I think you lost the plot. I mean, that was part of the point, like that's, and,
yes.
and Easton MAP is what, minimum advertised price? Is that
minimum advertised price?
Yeah. So, yeah,
I
thought it was funny. He was trying to make a point, like, hey, look what he's doing. Look what they're doing. It's like, yeah, that they're doing exactly what they mapped out. No pun intended.
Exactly. There's a bunch of other good questions in here that unfortunately I'm going to have to forego. I've got an appointment that I have to get to, but I do appreciate the questions. There's a lot of great ones here. But before we go, we do always have to wrap this up with a little story. It's hot in Florida. I like to keep my house cool. I like to keep my house comfortable. But my wife has been complaining a little bit lately about how cold it is. So I recently told her that if she's cold, she should go stand in the corner. It's always 90 degrees there.
You got an appointment with a high tide is what I'm guessing based on your background. But I'm still kicking myself over punching up the screw line on that dyslexic joke last week. But did you hear about the guy that broke into the church, the naked man?
I missed that one.
Yeah, naked guy. He broke into the church, and but police were able to catch him by the organ. So,
oh, that's good. All right. On that note, guys, we are out. We will see you next Wednesday at 5 p.m. as we do every week. And I think we'll both be back at our home bases next Wednesday. So until then, everybody, good selling. Make sure to hit the like and follow button to not see your prices erode. And we'll see you guys.